Okay, good afternoon, everybody. It is nice to see a full room here on the 7th floor of the Council building. This is the Transportation and Environment Committee, and we have a big briefing ahead of us to talk about the Climate Action Plan, to see where we are and where we need to go. It's been a little while since we've gotten a big overview, and I know there's lots of different people who are interested in this, from residents who participated in the formation of the Climate Action Plan, which, when it was originally written, had hundreds of recommendations. We have other stakeholders here in county government and in environmental organizations, and I'm pleased to say that we also have some students who are here, the next generation of environmentalists who are very interested in what we're doing in Montgomery County. I'll also note Councilmember Balcom is joining us. She is. And there is a lot ahead of us, so I will turn it over to Mr. Levchenko if there's any other introductions before we hop into it.
Yeah, just a few quick comments. The staff report was really intended to provide background to the council members, especially since a majority of the council were not actually here when the council passed the resolution that initiated this process back in 2017. So there's a lot of good background in there, as well as a lot of links to resources. So just for the folks interested in this meeting, if they go to the staff report that's available on the council website, they'll get that background that they need. I did not want to replicate the presentation itself. You've got plenty there. I did want to note that the last council update was in September 2021, and that was in reaction to the release of the report itself. So we have not had a comprehensive update. Since then, we've had discussions of various elements of this. Most recently, the EV infrastructure briefing that the committee got a couple of weeks ago. But this is really the first comprehensive briefing on the action plan that this committee or the council at all is getting. So we have a lot of information in here. And also, as you probably have noted yourselves, there's almost every day there's information in the media about various climate issues, whether it's at the international level with the upcoming conference in Dubai, or the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments, which has released some goals regarding solar energy generation, which Ms. Stewart can speak to. So there's a lot of issues, and perhaps also without did not want to neglect to say that also a lot of studies have shown that the issue seems to be accelerating. The impacts seem to be accelerating from what was seen over the past 20 years, beyond what scientists had previously assumed. So we're seeing an intensification. We're seeing broader impacts across all over the world. And it seems to be going faster than we thought. So all that's sort of just broad context here. With that, I'll turn it over to our participants at the speakers table to introduce themselves and get us into the briefing.
Let's do that.
Hi, thank you. I'm Sarah Kogel-Smucker, Climate Change Officer for Montgomery County. And I'm in the County Executive's Office partnering with parties to implement the Climate Action Plan and lead achievement of the county's climate goals. Really want to thank the committee for calling attention to this important issue and holding a briefing on the overall Climate Action Plan, and also publicly say how honored and humbled I am to be entrusted with this position. As Mr. Levchenko said, the briefing is timely. The climate crisis is here and it's accelerating. There's ever approaching news about it. An additional highlight was the March IPCC, the International Scientific Report, the latest update of synthesis of the science, saying there's a rapidly closing window of opportunity to secure a livable and sustainable future for all. So it is getting even more urgent. Also timely after a summer where we experienced wildfire smoke, as we never had from Canadian wildfires that required shutting outdoor activities and put the outdoor workers of the county at risk. And then it's also timely because we have had an update in the countywide greenhouse gas emission inventory since the last briefing. As I'll get to briefly, we do have the 2020 numbers, and we'll give an overview of those. It's also timely because I've been in this position for 9 weeks, so have at least met everyone that I am about to introduce to give updates. Next slide, please. So this is our agenda. I'll provide an overview of our goals, the emissions, the climate action plan, and plans for reporting, and then turn over to colleagues for updates on each plan action area and key actions, and then cycle back at the end to discuss funding. Next slide, please. So to recap, the county is a leader in this area. We have set some of the most ambitious, if not the most ambitious goals in the nation. Council resolution in 2017 declaring a climate emergency set a reduction of 80% by 2027 and 100% by 2035. The slide demonstrates our progress thus far, and new since the last council briefing, as mentioned, is the 2020 numbers. This inventory is conducted by the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments. They do regional inventories and then provide them for specific communities every 2 to 3 years. Of note, that pie chart shows the 2020 inventory numbers by broad sector, and so we can see where the majority of 2020 emissions are coming from. The chart also highlights the progress we need to make to meet the 2027 goal and the 2035 goal. In terms of the next updated information, the Metropolitan Washington Council of Governments has indicated that they're going to conduct a 2023 inventory. It will take 2024 to analyze that information, and it will be available in 2025. So the next update we'll receive on overall GHG emission reduction countywide progress will be then. In terms of county updates, the county has generally provided regular updates. There's a 5-month gap in between my predecessor and I, and so we have now collected and are in the process of compiling and hope to expeditiously release the fiscal year 23 annual report. There will be an action plan for this year instead for the second 2 quarters of the year, released before the beginning of Q3. And then in 2025, we will begin with a full cycle of reporting. Next slide, please. So to very briefly recap, as Mr. Levchenko mentioned, there was a robust community-filled CAP development process. This is really a community-driven effort, including working groups with more than 150 community members. The work groups developed 894 action recommendations, and there was an extensive public comment and input process on the draft climate action plan. Next slide, please. And in terms of what is in the climate action plan, it's an extensive document, but it's really organized by sector. The sectors are outlined on this slide. And also outlined on this slide is the overarching target for each sector, where we want to be and need to be by 2035. Under that overarching target, there's more specific targets mentioned in the climate action plan for each sector, and then specific actions. And those actions make up the 86 actions in the climate action plan. But it's important to note that the plan is a strategic guide. It's an overview. It's a map of what we can do to achieve these goals. It's also a living document. It's going to be developed through implementation and partnership through department, agency, and other county entity actions, initiatives, through council legislation, through budgeting decisions, and through community partnerships and community action. Next slide, please. Also want to emphasize that the plan reflects a whole of government approach to achieving our climate goals. This slide lists the departments and offices and entities that are lead for or contributing to capital implementation action. It is not the whole universe of partners, but it's one specifically called out in the plan. And important to note, it's not just executive departments, but closely partnering and working with offices like MCPS, who's here today, and MNCPPC. I think I got that correct. And key partners.
Acronym to state and county.
But so important because they're key partners and stakeholders and actively involved. And so, you know, my job is to work with all of these partners and stakeholders, and they're really active participants in the ongoing process of CAP implementation. Next slide, please. So this is a little hard to read. I think it was, I'll get a more clear resolution for the next time we use this, but you don't need to read it for the overarching point, which I wanted from this slide, which is, this is in the Climate Action Plan ranking actions by greenhouse gas reduction impact. And the point being that while there are 86 actions in the Climate Action Plan, there's really only certain key linchpin actions for greenhouse gas reduction. And if you, in broad summary, summarize the 22 or so actions that show up with greenhouse gas reduction impact in that chart. You're greening the energy supply, electrifying buildings and cars, increasing energy efficiency, expanding transit options, and reducing personal vehicle trips. And that's the task ahead of us on greenhouse gas reduction. But equally key to our success is resiliency and justice. And so next slide, please. So to address resiliency and justice, we must prioritize racial and economic justice in climate action plan implementation. We cannot make these transformative changes while perpetuating injustices of the past that left certain communities overburdened by environmental harms and under-resourced in environmental benefits. And it's important to institutionalize this prioritization. And that has been done already in a number of ways. First, the Climate Action Plan itself looks at racial and economic justice in actions and adds equity enhancing measures. But equally importantly, there's the passage of the Racial Equity and Social Justice Act. And because of that, there is a lens in the climate budgeting decisions, in climate legislation, in implementation of programs through departments and agencies in partnership with the Office of Racial Justice and Social Justice, Racial Equity and Social Justice. And so that's a way of ensuring that that's institutionalized in broad implementation. But additionally, I wanted to note that for federal funding, Justice 40 is an additional important institutionalization. It's the Biden administration's initiative to ensure that 40% of the benefits of climate clean energy and other environmental federal investments flow to disadvantaged communities. It's going to be an important scoring factor in all of the federal climate grants that we are seeking and hope to receive. And so it's just yet another institutionalization of ensuring that as we're developing climate proposals, projects, programs, and funding streams, that we're carefully looking and partnering to make sure that they're centering racial equity and social justice. Next slide, please. So that's an overview of the Climate Action Plan as a whole. And in thinking about how to provide an update of all the many actions that are being taken, thought it made sense to do a snapshot approach. We have prepared some highlight overviews for some key sectors like buildings, transportation, clean energy, and adaptation. But then also selected some important actions under those sectors for a more briefly detailed update so that you can get some substantive updates on key actions that either have had developments over the past year or are key actions that may be of interest or have key community benefits. But I really want to emphasize that this is a snapshot of certain updates. It does not begin to capture the whole of actions in terms of where we are on CAP progress. As mentioned before, the fiscal year 23 annual report is forthcoming. That will be more comprehensive. And of course, when it's available, we will provide it to this committee and send it to the council. But unless there's any questions on the overview, I want to turn it to my colleague, Stan Edwards, Division Chief at DEP and key county climate expert for our first update.
Mr. Edwards.
Good afternoon. How are you today?
We are good,
I'm
thank you.
going to start out next slide, please, Keith. I'm going to start out our discussion of the various sections of the Climate Action Plan with our progress in clean energy. To remind you, the goal of the plan is that the county uses and invests in clean, reliable, and affordable energy. And just highlighting on this slide a couple of recent successes and shows you kind of the breadth of things we're working on. There's a new solar switch program, which is a solar group buy that was launched. My colleague, Ms. Lindsay Shaw, will talk about that in a second, a little bit more. DGS has done a couple things related to clean energy, including a microgrid on the animal shelter, and they're finishing up the Oaks Landfill Community Solar Project, which will be 4 megawatts of community solar, as well as 2 megawatts of solar for county use. The council, of course, authorized funds to the Montgomery County Green Bank to promote energy efficiency and renewable energy development. And we're working on community choice energy, which is one of the key programs mentioned in the Climate Action Plan to reduce carbon emissions in the electricity that we use. And on the next slide, please, Keith, I will go into a little more detail on community choice energy. And we'll talk a little bit about some successes, what we're working on, and some of the challenges still before us. So community choice energy is the program that will allow the county to become the electricity supplier to residences and small businesses in the county. There are no community choice energy programs in Maryland currently. There are none in the Mid-Atlantic, although community choice energy has been used across the country in various states. Historically, it was used to lower prices of electricity, but more recently has been used to achieve policy goals, and that's really what the county wants to do. We still want to try to save money on electricity, but we also have these policy goals to reduce greenhouse gas emissions, so that's a key pillar of our community choice program. So far, we've been working through a work group at the Public Service Commission to develop regulations that would guide how the program would work. That's been a longer process than we anticipated. Regulations were published in the Maryland Register just this month on the 17th. Comments are due by the 18th of December on those regulations. And that's really the first hurdle we need to get over before we can start to move forward with the program. After those regulations are published and reviewed and finally adopted in final form by the Public Service Commission, we'll be working on an aggregation plan, which really serves as the business plan for the aggregation program. And the council will have to pass a local law to authorize the creation of a CCE program in the county, and both those things will occur after the adoption of the regulations. We're working on those things, but until we know precisely what the regulations say, we can't finalize those things. Another key thing we're working on is options to allow for successful electricity procurement by both the community choice energy program and utilities that will continue to provide power to certain customers in Montgomery County and all customers in Prince George's County, because they will still be on what's called standard offer service, which is the basic service that utilities provide to most customers. Customers in Maryland can also use a retail supplier if they want. And this is a very detailed, I'm not going to go into details on it, but it's a very detailed, complicated process about ensuring that utilities can procure the electricity they need, the CCE can procure the electricity we need, and that we can do that kind of in lockstep so that we, as the Community Choice Aggregation Program, can maintain some price parity with the standard offer service, because this is an opt-out program. There's no requirement that customers stay in it. They will be opted into it automatically, but they're not required to stay in. They can go back to standard offer service or use a retail supplier. And in order to prevent that from happening, we need to make sure that our prices are competitive with community choice, with standard offer service. And it's also just another pillar of the program. We do not want to raise electricity prices for customers in Montgomery County, either residential or small business. So that's an issue we're working on also with the Public Service Commission. So among the challenges that we're trying to face, I've touched on a couple of them already, is this balancing of electricity and climate goals to ensure that the program is stable. We can't, if we go too aggressively after our climate goals, that may affect the price of our electricity. People would leave the community choice program and therefore undermine our climate objectives. So we have to balance those two things. And electricity is a complicated subject. Most people don't really pay attention to it. They pay a bill. This changes what they will, who will provide their electricity. Still be delivered by the utilities, but their supplier will be different. And communicating that with people, particularly in Montgomery County, where we have a very diverse community, will be critically important to making sure people understand what they're doing, or what we're doing, and what their options are. We want to have full transparency about what their options are, so that if they feel for some reason that they want to go back to standard offer service, they want to use a retail supplier, they fully understand how to do that, and we make that as easy as possible. So there's probably a lot more to talk about community choice energy, but that's a quick highlight of where we are right now. So unless there's any questions, and I can always come back and answer questions if you have.
Yeah, let's just keep going, and then we'll circle.
entire
Yeah.
I'm going to turn it over now to my colleague Lindsay Shaw to talk a little bit more about clean energy and then get into our buildings work.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Keith, appreciate it. Lindsay Shaw, Second Chief with DEP. So there's a number of things that we're doing to promote solar arrays on private residences and businesses. A couple successes to mention here. We revamped our former solar co-op program, which we've had in place since 2015. So we've rebranded our partner in the program, Solar United Neighbors of Maryland, brought on a new partner to help on some back-end work and make the program more efficient. So with that came a new name called the Solar Switch Program. So that launched in summer of 2023. We tried some new marketing and outreach campaigns there. We have 600 plus people signed up to receive their installations by January of 2024. So those are 600 new installations coming online this year. Since the program was launched in 2015, we've had about a little over 2 megawatts of installed residential solar across the county, which is really impressive. Other successes you'll see in the forthcoming proposed BEPS regulations. We have a renewable energy allowance passed by the council to include credit for renewable energy. So we're providing some policy tools for businesses to encourage more solar development across the county with things like the renewable energy allowance and the BEPS regulations. Things that we're working on, there's a lot of things happening. I'm not with DPS, but representing DPS, they're working to make it easier to install solar on rooftops with the launch of eSolar, the DOE solar app. So that'll streamline the permitting process for solar. We're also engaging with the Maryland Clean Energy Center. They recently submitted the statewide grant application for the EPA Solar for All grant, which is a substantial sum of money. So we're exploring those funding opportunities to make solar more affordable and accessible to everyone in the county. We are also seeking to expand solar development by advocating for removing barriers at the PSC. So there's a number of different work groups that we're engaged in at the staff level to really encourage the removal of those barriers to make it easier for residents and businesses to install solar. So, of course, you'll see that advocacy is really a key strategy when we're dealing with the state and the PJM, the utility scale there. That's where we have less direct control, as you'll highlighted often in the Climate Action Plan. So that advocacy is important so that we can have more solar at the county level, but of course that doesn't come without its challenges when you don't have direct control over things. So some of those challenges are that we are seeing a very long interconnection queue, so folks waiting to bring solar online. The Potomac Edison territory is fully subscribed for the queue of community solar, so we're not seeing a lot of solar installations there because the capacity of that section of the program is full. And we're also hearing from residents that are getting surprise utility charges. We're working with a number of residents now that have said, wow, I was looking to install solar, and when I went to interconnect it to the grid, which is a benefit that's offered in Maryland, there's an additional $6,000 or $7,000 waiting for them because they need to pay for the upgrade of that transmission line. So everyone else who's installed solar has gotten that availability at no cost, and so one person is bearing the cost of all that. So we are engaged in a work group that's working on that as well. And of course, there are some competing views at the county level and the state level about where solar should be sited in the county. So that continues to be a challenge that hopefully we can get to the other side of one day. Next slide. So moving from clean energy, we'll be talking about buildings and some of our successes there. Clean energy, of course, is critical for reducing emissions, but the buildings that rely on that energy need to be efficient, safe for residents and tenants, and resilient to climate hazards. So some of the ways that we're doing that are making progress on reducing emissions through new requirements, the proposed BEPS regulations, which I'm sure we'll be talking about much more come next year. In anticipation of that, following the passage of the law, we've brought on new staff that were in the FY23 and FY24 budgets. So we've onboarded the FY23 staff for BEPS and green building efforts. We have also done, bringing on that subject matter expertise. And then, of course, listed here are assistance programs. Requirements alone are not going to get us to getting to our climate goals. We need to encourage people to take action on their own where requirements aren't appropriate. So it's important that technical assistance programs make it easier for residents and businesses to improve their buildings when they choose to do so. So we have the Electrify MC program. It's a residential electrification incentive program, and a help desk to actually help residents through the process. Turns out it's not easy to do. And then the Green Bank, of course, Steve Morrell, the new CEO of the Green Bank, is in the audience. Their technical assistance program has been a huge boon for folks who are looking at benchmarking and BEPS requirements and not really sure where to start. They're a great first step to call. Next slide, Keith. Thank you. So, of course, BEPS, we'll talk about it much more, but we have the BEPS law was signed in May of 2022. That we were one of the first counties, not the first, one of the first counties to pass a building energy performance standard. Still only a handful in the country that have them. So we're very fortunate in that regard. And to help implement that law, we've onboarded key DEP staff. We've hired 2 new staff, 2 are in recruitment. And then in addition to some of those successes, to advise us on the BEPS regulations, we've appointed 15 members of the Building Performance Improvement Board, and they've been meeting over the last year or so to actually develop recommendations on the BEPS regulations. Of course, what we're working on now, in anticipation of the regulations being passed, is doing proactive outreach and engagement with building owners on what benchmarking means, what BEPS requirements might look like. So we're doing a lot of that work now, especially for folks who are new to complying with these laws. And of course, the BEPS regulations, they are out in the register right now. They're open for public comment through November 30th. People can email energy@montgomerycountymd.gov if they'd like to submit their comments before November 30th. Those are due to come over to council by December 31st, so we'll talk about that in early 2024. But of course, not without its challenges. The cost of implementation for BEPS far exceeds what we can use in terms of a Class A violation to compel compliance, and some of those costs are very significant. So they can be thousands of dollars to upgrade buildings and upwards of millions of dollars if you're looking to completely electrify buildings. So that the challenges, of course, are significant when it comes to cost. Thankfully, we have the Green Bank, but I don't think that not all entities are using the Green Bank right now. Not all entities need or can access financing. So it's very much a high barrier here. The other challenge that we're looking at with building energy performance standards is that the state also has a building energy performance standard, so we might have some issues with alignment. We're working with the Maryland Department of the Environment staff as best we can to align the requirements so that they are in sync as best we can, but there are still 2 requirements out there for some building owners to comply with. Next slide, Keith. So last highlight for our building section is the all-electric building codes. The former council passed a law in November of 2022 called the Comprehensive Building Decarbonization Law, Bill 1322. That law will require all electric new construction in 2027 with some caveats. That aligns with some of the trends that we're seeing across the country in terms of moving towards electrification, since it's an efficient technology. So right now, what we're working on is that the Department of Permitting Services is actively working on those codes. In the 2024 codes, you'll see electric-ready requirements, and then we'll be complying with the Bill 1322 with the all-electric code by 2027. So we're actively working on that. We are also engaging with the Public Service Commission on the grid electrification work group. There's a work group that is working on, can the grid handle electrification? There's some research being done. So we're participating in that. We are expecting that report in early December. So we'll be able to come back to you as required by Bill 1322 to provide a report on the electrification and what it means for Montgomery County. But as we heard during the deliberations of that law, all electric codes are not without its challenges. So there are some concerns about whether the grid can handle electrification. The overall findings from this PSC work group indicate that even high rates of electrification will produce peak load amounts that utilities have been able to manage in the past with grid management and investments. And the transition to cold climate heat pumps, that technology can minimize peak load demand, which is a good sign. Of course, there are funding constraints here. Federal funding is coming. It's not available right now. The Maryland Energy Administration has a request for information open through tomorrow to get community input on what the IRA incentive should look like at the state level. They're coming. They're not here yet. But we also know that the current set of Empower Maryland incentives do not directly incentivize fuel switching, which is what we want to see for electrification. We're hoping that that'll show up in 2024 and beyond. So we're advocating for that as well. And then lastly, what we're hearing from residents is that their HVAC contractor just will not do fuel switching. They have to serve as the electrification general contractor. They try to keep them on gas as opposed to getting them to electric. So the workforce is growing. I think the interest from the federal government kind of trickled down to that we're seeing more people interested in this work, but we still have some ways to go in terms of growing the workforce, especially in Montgomery County. So with that, wrap up buildings and turn it over to Maricela Cordova to talk about transportation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Lindsay. So, for the record, Maricela Cordova, Montgomery County Department of Transportation, Acting Deputy Director for Policy. And so this first slide is trying to capture in a summarized way all the many different items that we've been working on in the past few years, a couple years already, a little over that. And but I'm going to focus more on T1 and T5 from the Climate Action Plan in the next slides, which are expanding on public transit and zero emissions public buses. But I just wanted to mention that our approach to transportation is holistic and is integrated and very comprehensive. We're not just focusing on mass transit because we know that there are many strategies that we need to advance in order to really make an impact. So from this particular slide, I wanted to highlight our progress with other items that are not specifically mass transit, such as micromobility and so micromobility, just for everyone, is focused on expanding operations and new services. And for example, with strategies like corrals, which we have installed 2 physical corrals, and we are working on a dozen more that are in planning stage right now. And also wanted to mention our progress with sidewalks and bike facilities, which we could have a whole session on those themselves, but just to mention that we have multiple projects completed and many others that are under construction and in planning and design different stages. So we continue advancing those as well. Next, please. And moving on to T1, expanding public transit. So this is a lot of progress, a lot of focus in our department. Almost everyone in the department is working on BRT these days. But wanted to mention that US 29 Phase 2 preliminary engineering is ongoing. The Veers Mill Road BRT, as you might know, is 65% design complete and advancing. We are working on environmental documentation, and it's being prepared for submission to the FTA. And then MD 355, of course, is 35% design complete. We have engaged a project management consultant that is helping us with many tasks. It's a big orchard, and the environmental documentation is underway. We also are working, we're like halfway through the development of our progressive design build procurement that we expect to have ready at the beginning of next year, the first quarter of next year, so that we can procure a design builder to help us with this project. In addition, New Hampshire Avenue and North Bethesda Transit Way are under review. The preliminary alternatives are under review. And I am very happy to share that the Great Seneca Transit Network Phase 1 is under construction now, with the 2 first lines ongoing and scheduled to be completed by the summer of next year. Next, please. Also, as part of the expansion of public transit, I wanted to mention 3 more things. The BRT to Howard County, which I think was mentioned recently. We continue to advance the MOA on that. The challenge here is the cost of the buses has increased, and that's an issue to be resolved as part of our budget and as part of our conversations with Howard County. Ride on Reimagine study is scheduled to be completed, at least the Phase 1 to be completed by the first quarter of next year, and there will be more on that as well. But it's advancing. And then also happy to share that University Boulevard Tactical Bus Lanes is under construction now, and it's scheduled to be completed next month. So a lot of work on that as well. And then to close on T1, we would be remiss if we only focused on the projects. In addition to the projects, our efforts are also very extensive as they pertain to education, outreach, and communications. And we have been focusing a lot on the brand recognition. So Flash is our BRT service, and we are like rebranding that, talking a lot about that, doing a lot of social media, and just many strategies like our new Flash webpage. That talks about all the benefits, and it starts getting into the education of our residents and our public, so that we can pull them into using transit more. We are doing a lot of educational public engagement events and activities throughout the year. Currently, we have 25 to 30 each year, and they have been very successful. And then, of course, our beloved Monster Bus campaign. So we decorate one of the buses for special events and commemorations, and that has been super popular, and it's always really fun for people to get photographed next to it and see it go by, and we're getting very positive feedback on that. As part of US 29 specific marketing, which is the line that we currently have under service for Flash, we are focused on boosting ridership. We currently have about 2,300 weekday riders a day, which has grown a lot. Right now, our recent highest ridership route was this US 29, so we're very proud of that. And then there's a lot of outreach that is specific for the corridor. We have teams out there working with our residents and making sure that people know how to use it, how it works, the schedules, and just engaging with everyone. We're trying to make sure that this is an equitable service, and that we are reaching all of these communities, disadvantaged communities. So we are focused on Spanish stations and banners and being multilingual in that sense. And then upcoming campaigns are the flashlights campaign in December, which we will decorate. It'll include 5 decorated buses traveling through US 29 corridor. Looking forward to that. And then later, at the beginning of next year, we'll have a Love Flash campaign for February, for Valentine's. So we're looking forward to all of these things. Next slide, please. And then moving on to T5, zero emissions public buses. We recently briefed the committee about electrification, so I don't want to spend too much time on this. However, I did want to mention our initial zero emissions bus transition plan. We're planning to have that available by next quarter, next year. I'm in the process of reviewing our first draft. This is a really comprehensive tool that we're hoping will be super helpful in our key decisions, and will provide a very specific schedule as to the different steps and different actions that are necessary to advance the transition to zero emissions. This includes a transit fleet transition model. It is touching a lot on the bus depot that is necessary. So not only buses, but also facilities and infrastructure that is necessary to advance the program. And it, of course, addresses technology, infrastructure, risk assessment, cost evaluations, and all of the key decision points for this. As you know, we have 14 zero emissions battery electric buses in service. There's 100 more that are under procurement in the next 3 years. And then, of course, our microgrid and hydrogen fuel station and buses grant and projects that are being implemented by our DGS colleagues at MTOC. So to close this piece, I just want to mention that there's a lot of work to do, and we realize that. We continue to reach out and look for grants and funding and, aid as much as we can. We cannot do it without any aid, and we're focused on that a lot all the time. We know that, much like our climate action plan, our tools and our studies and our documents that we're developing are living documents that will need to be periodically updated, and we're planning for that as well. So, yeah. With that, I will pass it to our next team for carbon sequestration.
Thank you.
Now, we're shifting to the next several sectors. Those were the big major GHG reduction sectors in the plan, and we'll run through some highlights of key actions in carbon sequestration, climate adaptation, climate governance, public engagement partnerships, and education. And again, to emphasize, this is really a snapshot. It does not begin to capture the universe of actions, but wants to give an effective snapshot and insight into some of the work being done.
Great, awesome. And can we go to the next slide? So, hi everyone, my name is Kayla Hickman. I'm the Sustainability Coordinator for Montgomery Parks, so that Maryland National Capital Park and Planning Commission. I'm going to be calling them the Commission for short, as the rest is a mouthful. So, the Commission is listed as a lead agency in many of the actions related to nature-based climate solutions, which within the CAP are in the carbon sequestration section and also in the climate adaptation section of the plan. And these solutions involve conserving, restoring, and managing ecosystems to mitigate climate change by pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, but also have a really critical co-benefit of increasing the resiliency of our communities to climate change. So, obviously as an agency that manages over 37 acres of parkland and also sets land use goals and policies throughout the county, both the park and planning departments play a really critical role in implementing nature-based climate solutions within the county. So I'm going to be talking about a small portion of that work, which relates to climate action S1, retain and increase forests. And as the climate action notes, it's incredibly important to preserve our existing forests within the county. And one way that Parks does this is through land acquisitions of forested land and ensuring its protection. So a recent example being the acquisition of Broad Run Creek Farm to create Broad Run Conservation Park, which contained 325 acres of forest. And through public ownership of this property, we will ensure long-term preservation and conservation of that forest that was at risk of being lost due to development. But retention of forests goes beyond protections to limit their loss due to development. These ecosystems also need to be sustainably managed to ensure their long-term viability and increase their resilience to threats to pests or non-native invasive species. I'm going to be calling them NNIs for short. And NNIs are a huge threat to our forests. They can outcompete native plants in the forest understory, and they can also kill trees. So if you've ever driven across a highway and seen vines attacking the trees, it's being suffocated out. So at parks, we do a lot around this. We hire contractors to manage NNIs, but also, we have a huge volunteer program called the Weed Warriors program, which is really instrumental to protecting our forests. So they save approximately 12 to 15,000 trees a year from destructive NNI vines. They also plant native herbaceous plants and trees that we grow at Pope Farm Nursery on parkland. And so they're not just controlling NNI species, but they're also actively restoring these ecosystems. And our management and care efforts of these spaces are expanding in recognition of the CAP, but also in recognition of the park's goals to conserve and be good stewards of the land. And so in fiscal year 23, we did receive funding to hire another full-time staff member to help expand the Weed Warriors program. And we also received funding for 2 new full-time staff members who will act as a in-house restoration crew to do NNI management in prioritized areas and expand those efforts to equity focus areas. So this will drastically increase our annual impact on managing our resources to be best prepared for the changing climate. Another effort that was launched that we want to highlight is the Urban Forest Patches program, and we consider an urban forest patch to be those smaller forest patches that you see in local neighborhood and urban parks, and they're spread all throughout the county. Most of these patches were not receiving management, but were identified as serving deep ecological purpose. A good majority of them are in equity focus areas, and those areas are typically areas of the county which have high development and low forest cover and tree cover to begin with. We also found that these forests in many cases are the only accessible areas of nature to a lot of those residents. So our department mapped out the urban forest patches and collected data on the species diversity, invasive cover, and understory health to get a better understanding of what management needs will be needed to take care of them. And we're currently hiring a full-time staff to help create those management plans for the forest patches. And we believe with sustained and consistent management and technical expertise, it will improve the forest patch health, which will provide a productive urban forest that will mitigate climate impacts and remain resilient to climate change. I will say one of the challenges that we face is that most of the natural areas that we acquired throughout our park system were acquired during a time when it was believed those spaces didn't need management. And a challenge we're facing is that the management requirements for the natural resources have grown more rapidly than the staffing and funding. So we're trying to combat that by advocating for additional staffing positions as we move forward in recognition of this challenge. We can go to the next slide. So this next slide is just for information made on progress, made on action S2, retain and increase tree canopy, with updates from the Tree Montgomery program, which is managed by DEP. In the interest of time, this slide is not going to be presented on, but DEP is present to answer any questions that the council has. And now I'm going to pass it over to my colleague from the planning department to talk more about the work that's happening within his department around forest conservation.
Thanks. My name's Carl Morgan, and I am a special projects and policy manager with Montgomery Planning, and I also serve on our sustainability team that works with Montgomery Parks as well as our counterparts in Prince George's County to help the commission achieve its climate change goals. and sustainability. I just wanted to highlight two areas here today. One of them has to do with legislation, and the other has to do with funding that help us with our carbon sequestration goals and actions in retaining and increasing forests. This past year, many thanks of course, we go to the County Council for helping us work through the Forest Conservation Law, Bill 2522. In a nutshell, it allows us to better implement the no net loss of forest initiative, and there were a number of changes that you all considered and have really helped that program move along. It also helped us to justify increasing fees in lieu of planting at for new developments at $1.45 per square feet, which funding then has translated into being able to replant more, and not only reforestation, but provide afforestation on sites. It also, the other area has to do with our Reforest Montgomery program. This program is funded by fees in lieu as well as by the Forest Conservation Fund. And this year we have been able to see a funding increase to $600,000, which allows us to be able to continue to increase the fee. The free tree program that's been very popular, we've been increasing the capacity of that by 50% in this fiscal year. And we've also been piloting some partnerships with Montgomery County Public Schools to plant trees at schools. In addition to planting trees at schools, we also work very closely with our Parks Department on opportunities to plant trees within the parks as well. We have recently been focusing some of our work on identifying some outfall restoration projects, so it also helps with the water quality as well as the air quality and bolstering the forests throughout Montgomery County. With that funding that extra funding that we receive, for instance, during this past fiscal year, developers have contributed funds equal to about 64 acres of reforestation through the in lieu fee contributions. And then the planning department has worked with all of our partners to help reforest an additional 74 acres of land with the Forest Conservation Fund. So that's a summary of some of that work, and I will turn the time over to Tina LeBoy, who is with the county's Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security.
Thank you, Carl. As Carl mentioned, my name is Tina LeBoy. I'm the Operations Division Chief for the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, which I will now refer to as OEMHS. To talk really quickly about governance before we move into adaptation. So for the climate governance section, I'm going to quickly talk about the conducting climate vulnerability and detailed assessments, which is Action G16. So some of the successes that we have had in this area, OEMHS obtained funding from the American Geophysics Union to work with the Thriving Earth Exchange to map vulnerability for urban heat island effect in Montgomery County. So once this work is complete, we anticipate using this assessment to serve as a guide for planning, policy, codes, and other activities to account for the risk of climate change impacts and prioritize vulnerable areas and residents within Montgomery County. Another success that we've had in this area is a draft of the county's hazard mitigation plan. So as you may or may not know, to maintain eligibility for the Federal Emergency Management Agency hazard mitigation grants, states, counties, and local municipalities who wish to maintain their eligibility must participate in a hazard mitigation planning process every 5 years. Montgomery County has naturally come upon its time to redo our hazard mitigation plan. And with that, we are incorporating climate change as a big proponent of the hazard mitigation plan, not just because of the climate action plan that we have, but also because of requirements that FEMA is starting to implement at the federal level as well. So at this stage, we've incorporated public comments from the draft that we've had available on the OEMHS website, and we are currently preparing a package to submit to the Maryland Department of Emergency Management for their comment, and then that plan will be forwarded on to FEMA for additional comment before coming before the council. And some of the things that we are working on in this area, along with those hazard mitigation grants that I just mentioned, we have recently submitted applications for the Office of Emergency Management and the Department of Environmental Protection to try to grab some of those hazard mitigation funding for projects that we have. So for OEMHS, we're looking at a project scoping to look at methods for public engagement in hazard mitigation and vulnerability data in Montgomery County. And for DEP, we submitted a project for funding that will look at flood risks and vulnerabilities in certain watershed areas, and possibly come up with some mitigation actions after that project. So again, those applications were just submitted, so it will be a while before we hear from the federal government on the status of those applications. Next slide, please. So next we're going to move into climate adaptation. So there's a few things that I'm going to go into a little detail on later with regards to our extreme temperature plan and the Mesonet site. But for this slide, I'll just mention that the county recently completed the installation of 35 flood sensors in the county's most frequently flooded areas. And this project was completed in both funding and with support from the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. And the Office of Emergency Management recently hired our first climate adaptation program manager and the first hydrologist, and these positions will help us implement some of the actions throughout the climate action plan. And I'll also note that we are currently the only Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security in the state of Maryland to have secured those positions. So it is a real step forward, not just for emergency management, but also for the county as well. Next slide, please. So for action A3, temperature monitoring and alerts. So the county, we have an extreme temperature plan, which is updated twice every year to help us prepare for our operations for both the extreme cold and the extreme heat for the winter and summer seasons. So for this calendar year, those updates took place in May and October, and they were distributed to the internal partners who have a role in implementing the extreme temperature plan. The Office of Emergency Management, Homeland Security, our staff continues to routinely monitor any extreme temperature and alert as necessary as prescribed in our protocols. But of note, Alert Montgomery currently has over 230,000 registered contacts in our system, and we maintain our status as the largest mass notification system in the state of Maryland with 1 to 3% growth each month. Next slide, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Last slide, please. So some of the things that we're working on in this area, so the Maryland, State of Maryland Emergency Management, we've been partnering with them and the University of Maryland on the state's Mesonet program. So this is a brand new program to the state of Maryland that was spearheaded by Montgomery County. And so they recently installed the first, I guess you could say, site for this program in Howard County last month. And so we anticipate the first site coming to Montgomery County in the spring of 2024. And so this Mesonet site will provide real-time microclimate local level data to assist in the preparation of extreme weather events for localized nature, and will help provide a local level Montgomery County specific weather data moving forward. So we're really looking forward to the implementation of that first Mesonet site. And we've identified the first site as the Trolley Museum, and future sites are still to be determined. And we're also working, as I mentioned before, with funding from the American Geophysics Union on the Thriving Earth Exchange project. We anticipate that this project will be completed in the spring of 2024, but this project is going to be looking a lot at the heat island effect and tree canopy and impervious surface, and integrating them with social vulnerability data so that we can more easily determine areas of vulnerability in Montgomery County. Next slide, please.
That's with NOAA, right? That's the
Thriving Earth Exchange is through the American Geophysics Union. Okay. But we will be using some of the data that we collected as a part of the NOAA heat campaign. Yes. So for the emergency shelters and resilience hubs, before I turn it over to DGS, I just want to mention, that DGS has worked on a site that they're prioritizing for resilient infrastructure, and we've seen some of that earlier this year with the implementation of the Scotland Neighborhood Recreation Center Resilience Hub. And as Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, we are planning a training for the spring of 2024 with county staff and nonprofit partners on the best practices for resilience hubs. And this training will be provided with funding from our partners at the Maryland Emergency Response System. And so for now, I'm going to turn it over to Don Sherman, the Chief of Office of Energy and Sustainability at DGS.
Hello, my name is Don Shorman. I am the Chief of the Office of Energy and Sustainability, and I'm here on behalf of Director David Dice. I hope it was obvious from the discussion thus far. If you start with early on with Stan, DEP talked about the creation of our solar fields at the Oaks landfill. That was a partnership between DEP and DGS, putting in that community solar and putting in 2 megawatts of what is power for county facilities. Working with DOT and Ride-On and Fleet, getting facilities built and ready to go so that Fleet can do the zero emissions buses and support Ride-On, DOT Ride-On in their bus rapid transit with the articulating buses. A lot of us, we're all working together, and we're all going to have to work together if this climate action plan is going to be successful. And I think today you saw really good examples of how the different departments have been working together to try to make this work. So I hope that's duly noted. As far as next slide, please. The real thing I want you to take away from here, because obviously you can read definitions, is microgrids, is that we're using a blended approach on microgrids. We're using solar arrays, batteries, and backup generators. And the reason we're doing that is so that microgrids can serve 2 purposes. The first purpose is its specific use, which is that building can stand up when the grid goes down, and that we can continue to provide county services, be it in a resiliency hub, at our community recreation centers, or at our public safety facilities, our fire stations, and our police stations. The other function is, because we're doing it with solar arrays, batteries, is that the other, and this is not a real statistic, 99.8% of the time when the grid is actually working, from sun up to sundown, we're producing green energy, and we're reducing our greenhouse gas emissions at that facility. So we're multitasking. We're trying to accomplish multiple things that are required by the climate action plan. And that's how we're approaching the microgrids. Next slide, please. So what have we done so far? Well, we've got 16 megawatts of power out there being produced. From the county's perspective, we've actually gotten, by being early adopters of the solar power, we got very good fixed rates on our energy, and we have about $2 million a year in cost avoidance using solar power versus using grid power. So being an early adopter has been important. We have everything. We have ground mount. We have canopy over parking lots. We have them on roofs. We have all those things. And as was pointed out, we do have microgrids. We have our microgrid at the public safety headquarters, the correctional facility. We have the Brookville Smart Bus Depot, which, my goodness, poor Calvin here is, he's going to have to get licensed as a tour guide, as we have so many people so interested in how amazing that facility is. We've actually got the infrastructure in place. We've got 14 buses now. We've got 100 on order. That facility can support all of our bus fleet as a microgrid, no matter what. And we've got it in place before the buses arrived, which is apparently that's one of the struggles everybody's talking about nationally. And so Calvin gets a lot of visits because people want to see it. The animal shelter, I think you heard the story. I think Mr. Dice told the story how when the plane ran into the high tension lines, everybody else was out of power, but the Animal Service Center was not. So the function of microgrids, it's been demonstrated, and we've been and they've worked very well. The Resiliency Hub at Scotland, it's great. It's our first step, and we're working with the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security. They have a long acronym that I have trouble with also, so I just want to. So they're the first of what hopefully is many. So what do we, next slide please. So what do we have in the works? Right now we have 4 things. As Stan pointed out earlier, we're coming to closure on the Oaks landfill. Again, that's 4 megawatts of community solar and 2 megawatts for the county. That'll be done very soon. We have 3 microgrids which are currently under development. The parts have been ordered, and we will be getting those together. Public Safety Communications Center is a good example. It's a renovation of a facility, obviously a very important facility. Any facility that has 911 in it is pretty important. But we were able to work with DVDC and OES, and we were able to put together, again, a blended microgrid where we're putting in a significant solar array with that. And so when we're in normal operations, we'll be producing a lot of green power for our 911 call center. That'll be a good thing. The 6th district is kind of special because it's new construction. We did a coordinated effort there. It will start day 1 with solar canopies being installed on the parking garage that's part of that construction. So that's really good. MTOC, I think you've gotten a lot, and you've seen pictures of it. It's over 5 megawatts of power. It's really a great project as far as both electrification of our depots and getting ready not only for electric, but for the hydrogen fuel cell electric. That will be the next big thing. So those are all things that are currently in the works. But what do we have coming? Well, what we have coming is, again, working with the Office of Emergency Management and Homeland Security, we've identified where we want to put resiliency hubs. And we've identified 12 of our recreational facilities. And if you look at them, they're pretty much spread out all over the county so that we can provide good service kind of no matter what. When the derecho came through, we had 164 segments of roadway that were out, and it was a pretty bad event countywide. This will give us a good opportunity, given the spread of our community recreation centers, to support all of our residents. We're also doing the microgrids at our public safety facilities. Again, remembering that this is a blended approach, we want to get the solar arrays in place so that when we're not in an emergency situation, we're producing green power and reducing our greenhouse gas emissions. And we've also included 2 HHS facilities, in particular Dennis Avenue Health Center, which is the Emergency Operations Center for HHS, for those who are not familiar. So that is pretty much what we have going. Next slide, please. If you have any questions about flood management, DEP is here to speak on that if you have any questions.
And then, thank you. And then lastly, in terms of specific updates, we'll hear from Lynn Surratt, Director, Division of Sustainability and Compliance, MCPS Office of Facilities Management.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon. I'm here just to talk about a little bit about what Montgomery County Schools has been doing with regards to our own sustainability policy that we passed in June 2022. And it was one of our objectives when we developed that policy to, number one, include stakeholder input in that, just like the county had done when the county created their county climate action plan. But number two, to pretty much align with the county climate action plan as much as possible. As part of one of the major things that was important to us was increased opportunities for both staff and student opportunities to become involved, to take action, not to just sit and be passive, but actually to be action. So we've had a youth climate summit for 2 years now. We had our first in-person one this past spring. We've had various symposiums. Just this June, the new Student Climate Action Council was formed, and one of our board members is here as well as our student members. The other thing that we've really committed to is having hands-on volunteer opportunities for the students. We had our very first one this out-of-school day on November 1st, and it was incredibly successful. It was so cold out there, and those students were planting plants. And not only did the students learn a lot about the structures that we have in place and the infrastructure that's so important for resilience, they also got SSL hours, but we were able to save some money that we can use on other projects too. So it's a win-win-win-win scenario by engaging our students in these actions. So what we're working on this year, just in terms of student engagement and climate, MCPS is the lead agency in probably 14 of the public engagement sectors in the Climate Action Plan. We're a collaborator on many of the other actions in the action plan. But because of that, we felt it was very important not only to have our sustainability action plan at every single school, have an adult assigned to be that leader for both sustainability, recycling, food recovery, and for our schools to become green schools, certified green schools through the state of Maryland, but also to link that adult with a student leader. And the student would help not only help the adults get motivated in some cases, but also help motivate their peers. And so we're working on making sure that we have an assigned student leader and adult leader at every single school this year. The other major thing that we're doing in the schools is taking a look at every single one of our buildings across the board and looking at what kind of energy conservation measures we can implement. We've just finished auditing 50 of our schools, and we're working towards being able to go into construction for those 50 schools and implement various energy conservation measures. And as soon as we get that going, we're going to get to the next 50, and our target is to get through all of our schools to look at what we can do to reduce our energy use and engage the students at the same time in the next several years. Obviously, challenges that we are facing is every single school has a different personality. We have different wants, needs, and desires at the schools. My philosophy of our division is that we need to meet people where they're at. We're going to be working on those energy reduction actions, but also really listen to the students and the staff. What are their interests, and how can we get the synergy there to achieve our county climate action goals? And as many others have mentioned, the infrastructure improvements that are going to be needed to accomplish these major greenhouse gas emissions far exceed the available funding. We're super grateful for the County Green Bank because we are able to finance some of our current set of projects through them. We hope to be able to continue to partner with them moving forward. The next slide does talk a little bit about the Montgomery County Energy Connection Program. I'm staff are here to talk about that, and I will turn it back over to Sarah.
Thank you, unless there's questions. Unless there's questions on.
If I could just follow up real
Sure.
quick, I just want to make sure I heard it right. MCPS utilizes the Green Bank?
So our financing will be through the Bank of America, and Bank of America is using the Green Bank. Yes, so indirectly we are working with Green Bank. Yep.
Okay, interesting.
Unless there's questions now on Montgomery Energy Connection, just wanted to give a brief overview of funding sources. This is really an all-of-the-above approach. Resources needed. So of absolute priority for the coming year, we'll be taking full advantage of the Federal Bipartisan Infrastructure Act and the Inflation Reduction Act. Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act. And so departments and agencies are already seeking those funds. We have some initial successes highlighted, but importantly, we're gathering additional resources to be well poised, both bringing on additional funded staff from fiscal year 23 and 24, and then repurposing certain resources to make sure that we are well poised to seek as much funding as possible from the federal funds. The state is an important conduit, both of the federal funds from that law and additional state funds. And again, we want to be extremely proactive, not just in seeking available grants, but ensuring that the state is well poised to turn around funds quickly and set us up for success in getting them. Montgomery County Green Bank, as you've heard throughout, I think highly illustrated just by what's come up, is a key partner. It is important to note that the private sector will play an important role both in not only in complying with requirements, but also in the innovation and action and energy that the private sector is bringing towards a green economy. And I'm very excited about a lot of the initiatives in Montgomery County to increase green businesses here in the county. And then utility incentives, as DGS briefly mentioned, they've been highly successful in utilizing utility incentives as part of the funding for initiatives. And as the Empower Maryland incentives change, we will, of course, take a close look at taking advantage of those. And then, the action and investment in energy that not just the private sector, but community organizations, partners, and individuals will be an important source of contributing to the success here as well.
Well, thank you. I'm glad that we allowed every presentation to move forward because I know I was taking notes and I know my colleagues were taking notes, and we could have stopped along the way, but given that this committee had not had this thorough a conversation for nearly 2 years, and as some of you know, I wanted to schedule this conversation as quickly as possible, but recognizing we needed some key players and individuals in place and able to see the landscape and all of the partner agencies and organizations. And so just as Ms. Kogel-Smucker, you were able to choreograph this hour and 15-minute long presentation, I see the choreography that is underway, right? There's a lot here. And whether it's the building energy performance standards and the decarbonization bill, the trees, the solar panels, the waterways, there's a lot here. And I just want to say, I am very appreciative of all of our agencies, the leaders within those agencies and departments, and all the staff that are pulling together this work. Because from an outside perspective, people don't necessarily know what's going on. They see some solar panels going up. They ask us all the time why there aren't more EV charging stations, which for everybody who's following this conversation, we had a very thorough 2-hour conversation about that 2 weeks ago. Check the YouTube. It's really good discussion because a lot is going on. But this is very helpful to level set. I have a few questions. I'll open it up for conversation after. And Mr. Olchenko, I might be referencing some slides, so if you want to go back. Going back to, I think it's Circle 12, regarding clean energy. There was a slide that says that we need to advocate to the Maryland PSC to help, where is it right now? So what we're working on, third bullet point down, advocating for change of the Maryland PSC and PJM to facilitate solar development. And I invite whomever would be the content expert on that particular slide. There we go, perfect. I know that there are some facilities, particularly in the northern end of the county, where we want to accommodate more, and that there are just more solar projects that we're hoping to accommodate. What is the hiccup here, and what is the change that we're advocating for?
Yeah, sure. So Garrett Fitzgerald, I'm a section chief in DEP. Unfortunately, there are multiple hiccups. There are multiple different kinds of hiccups because when we think about reaching our solar goals, there are different types of solar that each need to be built out in an accelerating pace, from rooftop solar that's very distributed to these utility scale solar projects where we're essentially replacing something in the order of a power plant, a traditional power plant, with a big field of solar. Those kinds of projects go through very different approval processes to be able to be built and then connect and flow the power that they generate into the grid. So I'll give you one example on the kind of the rooftop solar side. As Lindsay mentioned, there have been a number of residents who have been, their neighbors on their street have all added solar to their roofs, and they say, "Oh, this is great. We're saving money. We should do this. We all feel good about this." And they go to do the same thing and are told, "Oh, well, the capacity on the power line that runs up and down your street has been used up because the neighbors on your street have already gone solar." So if you want to do this under the current rules, you, as the person who would be causing a line upgrade, a beefier wire essentially needs to be installed, some other equipment might need to be installed to be able to flow additional power on that street. As the household that would be causing this, you're going to bear that cost. We feel like this is unfair, and it also kind of discourages folks are become worried that I might have to face a cost like that. I'm not even going to look into this whole solar thing. So there's a change that we're advocating for right now that the Maryland Public Service Commission has the authority to make, where we would socialize that interconnection cost, so that extra $6 or $7 grand to upgrade the wire. Everybody who adds solar to their roof would pay a small fee to interconnect their solar to the system. And here and there, it's very occasional that a line upgrade is necessary to support rooftop solar. But here and there where it is necessary, we'll pay for that from that pot of funds that's been raised across all interconnecting customers. So it becomes a very small fee for everybody and doesn't end up being a barrier to rooftop solar. So that's something that we've been advocating for. Public Service Commission will make a decision on that probably within the next few weeks, and that would hopefully go into effect within the next 6 to 12 months. So we're excited about that. Very different kind of problem when we talk about utility scale solar, where the PJM, the entity that manages the electrical grid, the transmission grid for the 13-state region that Maryland sits within, they have a whole set of a whole process that somebody who wants to build a wind farm or a big solar field has to go through for that project to be approved, to be able to flow this utility scale electricity into the grid. That process has been very broken. It's one of the worst in the country. PJM has recognized this, and they're trying to reform it, and they've sought federal approval. There's an entity at the federal level called FERC that manages these regional transmission organizations. So they're in the process right now of reforming that, the process by which somebody raises their hand and say, "I want to build a wind farm here in Western Maryland or off the coast. I want to build a big solar field somewhere." They're going to reform that process to theoretically make it considerably faster for projects to be analyzed and ultimately be approved to move forward. And there are a couple of different ways that we've been advocating to both PJM and to FERC to change the process that is used to evaluate some of these utility scale projects so that they can make improvements to speed this whole thing along. So these are things that, we could go into a lot more technical detail on that front, but there are very few local governments participate in any of these kinds of processes. They're mostly discussions between the utility companies, maybe the regional transmission operators. So we do try to follow and bring some local government perspective into these kinds of potential areas of regulatory change, because we've found that they're moved by local governments showing up and saying, "We very much care about our energy and climate goals. We need these kinds of changes to happen, not just for the businesses of the solar businesses that want to sell product, but we need them to hit our climate goals," and it's been useful.
I appreciate that very digestible explanation of what's hindering us, right? Because we are moving at lightning speed or trying to, and to know that there are either state regulations, the PSC, or federal prohibitions or things that are causing us to slow down at FERC or some other federal agency. It's frustrating, but I'm glad that you're at the table, that we're at the table, helping shine the way for local governments. Mr. Edwards, did you want to?
I was just going to say there's a space in between what Mr. Fitzgerald talked about at the rooftop and the large utility scale, and that's the say, community solar size. And we went through a process, you'll recall, a couple of years ago to update our zoning code to allow community solar. And that's still a point of discussion I think we need to have, because there were some provisions in that law that maybe limited solar in ways that some people think are unreasonable. I'm not opining one way or the other on that. But so there is some control that we still have at the local level to expand solar in certain places around the county, including the Ag Reserve. So it's not, certainly there are these barriers at the state and federal level, but we also have some things that we could look at here again if we're interested in.
Well, I appreciate everybody bringing all these issues up, because you have clearly already created the agenda for this committee for the next number of months, quite frankly, as we await the BEPS regulation to move that through, as we await the decarbonization details, and as Mr. Edwards just noted, when this committee with the committee formerly known as the Fed Committee worked on solar, trying to accommodate more solar, we set a policy in place that the planning department was going to take a look, an after-action report, essentially 2 years later or so, to see what's going on. And we will be getting that report in the next few months to see if that zoning text amendment facilitated what we wanted. And so you're absolutely right there, and that's a conversation that we're going to have.
I should say there were some projects that people were interested in developing, and there was a restriction at the state level with the community solar, which was a pilot.
Yep.
And Ms. Shaw mentioned earlier about the capacity of the pilot, and particularly in Potomac Edison, had been reached. That is no longer a pilot now. That's a full-scale program. There is additional capacity. So some of those projects might be able to move forward, but there is a long queue that they have of projects, and so we'll see how that evolves over.
We will. I'm going to turn it over to colleagues. I have a few other questions, but let's turn it over to Councilmember Stewart.
Great. Thank you so much. And I do want to say thank you to everyone for this presentation today. And it's great to hear from folks who we don't normally get to hear from on the committee about the work you're doing. And I do want to do a shout out to everyone, but particularly the Office of Emergency Management, and I forget the HS. I did it. Thank you, Homeland Security. There were a number of things I had not been aware of the work that you all are doing, and so thank you for that. And I do want to pause for a moment, because sometimes I think we go very quickly over the achievements that we have made in the past, and we're focused on the future, which we should be, and how we're going to make the next mark. But I do want to say a 31% reduction in our greenhouse gas from 2005 to 2020 is huge. And to put that in context, for the region, for the metropolitan Washington region that COG looks at, for the region, it was 24% reduction. So we are outperforming here in Montgomery County, the region. And everybody was celebrating that 24% because that was a great number. But I do think also we need to really celebrate the achievements we've made here. Having said that, we do have a long way to go to get to 80% reduction by 2027. And I guess, Mr. Edwards, since you are sitting there, I think one of my first questions is for you, because at that top of that bar chart, CCE is at the top of, like, if we are truly going to meet our goals, it's one of the biggest bangs for our buck. And I appreciate the way you've laid this out for us. I guess one question I have for you is, and I know you don't have a crystal ball, but if you did, could you look at and see, if things kind of fall in place now that the regs are out there? I know they have to be passed by PSC, but how long do you think will be until we really have this up and running? So
I don't have a crystal ball, but what I can definitively say is it will not be prior to 2026. Mm-hmm. At the earliest. So I mentioned standard offer service, which is the electricity that is provided by utilities in Maryland. And Maryland has a very effective standard offer service approach, which enables utilities to procure power over 4 cycles over a 2-year period to try to smooth the curve of price fluctuations. And while that's a very effective process for SOS, it presents some challenges for community choice aggregation, because what we want to do is be purchasing power on a similar schedule as SOS power in order that our prices are the same. Someone once said to me, one of our consultants we were dealing with said, if you and I were going to buy a car, the way to ensure that we are paying about the same amount for the same car is to buy it about the same time. If we buy it 1 year later, there might be discounts, there might be who knows what. But so the way to ensure that our electricity prices under the Community Choice Aggregation Program are similar to SOS prices, which is what we need to avoid people from opting out of the program, is to mirror that SOS procurement process. So that cycle, that 2-year cycle, essentially means we need to start procuring the Community Choice Aggregation electricity at the same time on the same cycle as the utilities. And we're not ready to do that yet. And so they purchase every April and every October. And so we're kind of monitoring, when's the next auction we can get involved in, the April or the October, and then get in lockstep with them to purchase that power. So right now, they're getting ready. Their next auction will be in April. The next procurement will be in April. We don't have regulations. We don't have an aggregation plan. We don't have the local law. So it's unlikely we'll be able to procure in April. The next opportunity would be October. So we've got to get these pieces in place in October. And then we have 3 more cycles to go. So that's why I'm saying and it won't be any sooner than 26. And we'll have to see if we can get all these pieces in place to make sure that date's hit.
Thank you. So that, Ms. Cooler-Smucker, I return to you because having that piece of it and knowing all the good work that we're doing, where do we, just stepping back, how do we see this roadmap moving forward to meet our goal by 2027?
I think a key piece is going to be the federal funding, because that is one way that we can highly accelerate what we're doing. The pacing of everything, as Mr. Edwards says, is not entirely under our control, right? So the PSC has the time frame it has for its processes, and we can do everything that we can. In terms of exactly how each piece falls into place, I think there's too many factors out of our control to lay that out specifically. What we need to do is make sure that we're moving everything forward we can as quickly as we can and seeking out the means, whether that's changes in state legislation, changes in regulation, or additional funding to accelerate or remove barriers as much as possible. And then secondly, that there is a particular eye to key actions like community choice energy, and which I believe there is.
And I know 9.5 weeks in. So I appreciate that answer. And I do think one of the things that was helpful when the CAP was first put out was that chart of even though we have 80 plus recommendations, where can we be focusing our energy? And I think that's also really helpful for the public to know as well. And it's also, I think, really helpful for us to know when we're talking about budgets. And looking at that, like where we need to be doing all the above, but where do we need to be focusing the energy? Not to use a pun, but I have some other questions, but I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Before I turn it over to Councilmember Balcom, regarding the slide that's currently up here, because it has been a while since this committee had this conversation. I know that I think it was a budget cycle or 2 or maybe 3. We appropriated funding for a consultant to prioritize the climate action recommendations based on impact. Mr. Levchenko, maybe this is best directed to you. Do you know if this was some of the result of that? Or if anyone else, or Mr. Edwards too?
This prioritization, the CAP process involved the inside, outside workers, inside government and community work groups. Yeah. Then those 800 recommendations that were mentioned were provided to a consultant. And it's noted in the packet. I have a little section on that. That consultant then did the heavy lifting of figuring out how to analyze those, identify the greenhouse gas emission reductions, co-benefits, the RESJ impacts, things like that. And the consultant then came up with the scoring that, and this slide actually appears in the CAP report itself. So this is taken directly from the report.
Great.
So I don't know if Stan wanted to add.
I would
anything.
just like to, sorry, I would just like to add to that, that this, in terms of prioritization, this highlights the greenhouse gas reduction impact, exactly as Mr. Levchenko is saying. The CAP looks at the actions through other lenses, including, what in environmental terms is co-benefits, but is really, improving air quality, increasing public health, making folks more comfortable in their homes, improving people's quality of life in a number of ways, and then the central importance of racial equity and social justice. So as we are prioritizing and weighing and understanding where to move ahead with scarce resources, I just want to note that the CAP and the internal process, and I think the collective process is the importance of GHG reduction, but also the importance of resiliency and community benefits, in my mind, particularly local air quality.
And that's the point I just wanted to raise, right? Just wanted to circle back, and the chart we're looking at is grounded in appropriations we made to make sure that we do this systematically, so that essentially the cost-benefit analysis is readily available, and that's what we're looking at right now.
Absolutely.
Great, good. Councilmember Balcom.
Thank you, and I also want to thank everyone. It's been really a thorough, not only update, but for several of us, this is the first time that I've taken a deep dive into the entire document, so I really appreciate that. I just want to piggyback on what Councilmember Stewart said about the time frame. I think it's really important to have ambitious goals, but I also think it's important to have realistic expectations. And given where we are with community choice energy program, and that being the biggest impact that we'll see, I just want to make sure that our target goals continue to be reachable. And I think that we know that this is a living, breathing document, and so perhaps one of the things that we need to do is continually look at the timelines and make sure that the timelines are realistic. I don't want to get to 2027 and then say, oh, we're not going to meet those goals. So I just take that into consideration as we move forward on that. A couple other things that I just wanted to mention. One of the things that came up when we talked about the EV infrastructure and kind of took me by surprise, and I think maybe our colleagues, is this the peak load pricing, demand pricing of energy. And as we go forward with electrification of buildings, and as we electrification of many things, autos, our fleet, I think that we need to have maybe a good understanding of that demand pricing, or maybe that's something that you all have a good handle on, and I just don't have a good handle on that. But I think that we were a little bit surprised by that in terms of how that's going to impact electrification. I think that's one issue. And then the second issue is, from the best perspective, in the Econ Committee, we're just studying the decrease in occupancy of commercial buildings. And again, when we look at goals, I think that the occupancy of commercial buildings is going to have an impact on our energy consumption. So I think that that's something that may be nuanced, but something that you might look at. And then lastly, I want to say I just did a tour of the Animal Services, the Adoption Center, and they were very proud of their microgrid, and they shared with us that when everyone around them went dark, they were up and running. So that was a big success story. So I don't know if you would want to comment on those two energy points.
Yeah, let me briefly comment on the goal and then turn over to my colleagues at DEP on the 2 energy points, if that works. I appreciate all of those points. And in terms of the goals, they were the 2027, my understanding was always intended to be particularly ambitious to avoid the pitfall that has happened elsewhere where the tough or big programs get put towards the end in the planning process and the low-hanging fruit gets taken on first. And as you can see from this update, that is not what Montgomery County is doing. And I think that's a real testament to the leadership of the council, the leadership of all my colleagues in this room and beyond, but also, to the structure of the goals in that way. I do take note of the importance of all of this being a living process. What I would recommend is, given that we are reliant on the Council of Government community-wide updates, and there hasn't really been any new information in a while, that the next update is going to be the 2023 number, and that's going to come in 2025. It may be a more fruitful or informed conversation at that point, because that would be the updated information. But your point's well taken. Just add to the kudos on the Animal Services Adoption Center and turn over to my colleagues at DEP to address the energy questions.
Just one other follow-up on the goals. I mean, I think our approach has been, since the Climate Action Plan was passed, that the goals were very ambitious, and whether we can get there or not, we know we won't get there if we don't work on these things as aggressively as we can. And so that's sort of been our mindset, is let's continue to push forward on these things, and hopefully things will fall in our favor. But without pursuing things like community choice aggregation or BEPS or electrification of the fleet, we know we won't get there. So that's been our mindset, I think, all along. There was a question about demand charges. I'm not an expert in utility rates and fees and charges. It's a complex subject. I think rather than say anything about it, I think maybe that's something we can come back to you on and have a discussion about. Maybe we can work with Keith to identify some questions and some ways to present that, because it is a complex subject. Got some utility folks in the room here today. They would probably have some information that would be useful to share on that. Garrett's certainly been involved in a lot of discussions about that, but it's, we acknowledge that is an issue, and we can explore it a little more.
Thank you. And also, when we do that, just the capacity of the grid, I think, as we continue to move forward on electrification, that continues to be a question. So I think those two combined would be a good briefing. So thank you.
Thank you for those comments and questions, Councilmember Balcom. One thing I just want to circle back to, since basically 2017, 2018, we've been using the metrics with regards to our carbon emissions and saying that 42% of our emissions comes from transportation sector, approximately 52% comes from our building and infrastructure. And I know that's changed a little bit in this, and I think it was alluded that is changing again. Can you give us an update as to those metrics? I think I read that those are 2015 inventory numbers, and that they might be updated.
2020 numbers in that pie chart on the slide.
Yep.
I can't read the percentages with this
Mr. Olchenko, what
slide in my level of vision.
Is that?
But they are.
That's page 3, circle 3.
Yes. So that pie chart shows the most recent overall inventory numbers.
Yep, I see that.
Thank you.
40%
So-
transportation, 49% buildings.
Correct.
And how often, can anyone know how often those numbers are updated?
So they'll be updated. So Metropolitan Washington Council of Government doesn't have an exact schedule. It's every 2 or 3 years. They took a bit of a longer pause because they wanted the data to even out from COVID impacts. And so they're using the 2023 year for the next inventory, but it takes them about over a year to do the analysis. So the next sort of data point on that chart that we're going to get is the 2023 update, which we will get in 2025.
And so thank you for that. I knew that there were projections coming from somewhere. Didn't know where, which is why I asked the question. But looking ahead, recognizing that we have to have these benchmarks, recognizing to Councilmember Balcom's point, they are difficult, right? But we need to continue working towards them. Otherwise, we will never achieve them. When we get the next breakdowns from COG, where here it says 40% from transportation, 25% from commercial, and 24% from residential, what should we expect those numbers to look like? What, aside from just bringing down the overall numbers, right? Right now we have an overall reduction of 31%, and appreciate Councilmember Stewart framing that as 31% compared to 24% for the region. With regard to the internal breakdown, do we expect it to stay the same but just shrink as a total number, or will those different wedges change based on BEPS, based on some of the transportation energy stuff?
I suspect, this is where the crystal ball would come in handy again, but I think what we really want to see is that pie shrinking across the board. I'm sure there will be some shifts, a percentage point here or there among the sectors, but what we really want is that overall pie to be reduced, because there is effort in all those areas. So we would expect transportation emissions to come down, residential, commercial buildings to come down, but it's hard to.
I agree with that. Again, we're level setting or creating expectations, which we then have to meet. So that's why I asked. Last point I'll make is we didn't talk about waste. I know that is another conversation that that the executive and many of you in this room are working on. We will have that conversation probably in the spring, I presume, about waste management. Big conversation in its own right. Councilmember Stewart, I think you said you had a few other questions or comments.
Yeah, I just had a couple, and I know you all have been here a long time this afternoon, but I just wanted to ask in terms of, and I know this is just a snapshot of all the work that's happening, but one of the things I wanted to go back to was when we were talking about trees and forest and other things. One of the things that has come up, and I raised this when we did the pedestrian master plan as well, I'm hearing from a number of residents when it comes to tree replanting, one of the things that stands in the way is stump removal. And we have a really long waiting list for that. And so I don't necessarily, I see heads nodding, so I don't know if that's confirmation that is an issue. But I know lots of times when we're talking about budgets and other things that stump removal is not the sexiest thing to fund. But I do think if there is a connection between our ability to do tree replantings and other things and the lag we have in stump removal, we should be talking about it more. So I don't know if anybody has any thoughts on that, or I'm just going to keep talking about stump removal whenever I can.
I see Mr. Edwards wants to make a comment, but I will spare him and everyone from the executive by saying those are budgetary decisions.
Yes.
And I look forward to another robust discussion here at this committee and full council.
Well, I would just
for those
is it a
items.
good assumption to make that these are linked?
Well, certainly for trees, and I'm not the tree expert, but certainly for trees in the right-of-way, you can't plant a tree if there's a stump in the way. And so that's been an issue that's been the subject of much discussion, and as Councilmember Glass says, including in budgets.
Yeah. So.
Well, can I just add to that real quickly? I even think that while stump removal is important for the reasons you mentioned, one, it it is specifically for the right-of-way, so we're already talking about a very constrained parcel. But two, I would be open to working with colleagues on this committee about, being even more forceful in the types of plants that we support here in the county. The tree program, making sure that they are natives, making sure that invasives, not only with the Weed Warrior program, but we try to prevent some of these things from getting into the community. Lots of conversations I've been having just about as the climate continues to change, and I think I just read that everywhere in the country, the zones have shifted. So we're going to be having some plants that we haven't seen before. And if we want to encourage less water use, encourage no pesticide use, we should be shifting to natives and look forward to working with whomever would want to work with me on those efforts.
I believe my colleague from the Parks Department had wanted to add to the tree question.
Yeah, I can't add, my apologies, I can't add too much to the stump. Although at Parks, I'm stumped. No, I know at Parks we do remove stumps, but yeah, you might be talking more about the right-of-ways, which we don't own. I will say to Councilmember Glass's kind of comments around, we did look at that USDA zone change. We are working with our tree nursery to monitor the health of our trees. We've been seeing a steady decline in oaks, which we haven't fully identified why, but making sure that when we're planting trees, they're highly diverse. You all remember, and it's still going on, the ash borers. And so making sure that there's not just a ton of one species of tree being planted throughout our parks. And so really comprehensively identifying that. And also we do a lot of native plant sales, and we see that as an opportunity. It's really popular with the community, not only to raise funds for our nature centers, but also to talk about native planting and talk about the issues around invasive species. So we're closely monitoring that and making sure that we're monitoring the survivability of the plants that we plant as the climate continues to change. So.
Thank you. And actually, I was going to do a shout out to DOT for working with neighborhood groups on native plantings, and in particular in the North Hills of Sligo Creek area, the great work that the department has done in the right-of-way and on private property, also a good partnership to look at the plantings of native plants as an example of that.
Thank you, Councilmember Stewart. And yes, and I've taken note of the stump removal comment. Of course, it is a challenge. We do have a lot to take out. The backlog is huge, and it's just really budget based. Honestly, that's the challenge more than anything. I hate stumps. I wish we could remove them. We don't think that at this point stumps are precluding us from planting trees. But we can still plant those in between the stumps. But yeah, it is a concern for sure, and we do talk about it. I've taken note of plantings and trees program and what was our comments as well, because we do have the right-of-way tree program as well as part of DOT. So I've taken note of it.
Right.
I wish I could offer more, but
no, that is terrific. It's an ongoing. It's a process, and I know it's getting late, so I will. I can follow up on some things, but one of the things was the resiliency hubs that we and the list we talked about. And this is more of a comment. I haven't looked very closely at the list, but I do think I hope. One of the things that was overlaid on that was particularly in areas where we have high-density housing apartment buildings. Unfortunately, as the OEMHS knows, in my district that has the highest number of apartment buildings, we've had in the past year a number of incidences. And I think when we're looking at the very important issue of resiliency, if we're looking at heat, flooding, or other things, the impact to dense areas for people who live in multifamily buildings is great. So
And I also just in response to that, I know the list that we showed you was mostly focused on county-owned facilities. Our climate adaptation program manager, Mara Parker, who's here, has been working very closely with a consultant, Groundswell. So recently they obtained funding from the Maryland Department of Energy to look into resiliency hubs and their locations in Montgomery County. And so they are doing an assessment based on a variety of social and economic factors to determine where the best locations would be in Montgomery County, not just county facilities, but also looking at our private and nonprofit partners in the county and what facilities may be suitable.
Awesome, terrific. You guys are doing great work. I'll leave it there because it's getting late, but I just again want to thank you all for all of your efforts and the work you're doing.
Really good deep dive. Appreciate all of you and your teams taking the time to be here. Also our utilities, our Green Bank, MCPS, everybody who is part of this ecosystem and whose support and cooperation is needed to get us to where we have to go. This is a team effort, and very much appreciate this conversation, particularly for my two colleagues, and I wasn't joking when I said you have given us our agenda for basically next year, and so we will continue this conversation. But thank you for the work that you're doing. We got a lot more work to do, and we look forward to doing it with each and every one of you. And so with that, we are adjourned.